Hey there everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm your host, OPPRESSOR, and in today's video, I'll be talking about the most expensive purchase that you can essentially make in Grand Theft Auto Online. See, a lot of people say the Luxor Deluxe is the most expensive purchase. You can find the Luxor Deluxe on Elitist Travel, and it's a whopping $10 million. However, the Luxor only requires you to purchase it. There's no upgrades, you don't even need a hanger, you can call it right through Pegasus. When it comes to the Oppressor Mark2, if you want to fully upgrade it, it's going to cost you a whopping $10 million at the minimum, and if you don't have the trade price, upwards of $12 to $13 million. Why? Well, the Oppressor Mark II comes with a base machine gun mounted on it, but that's pretty dang useless. You're going to need to upgrade this, and the only way to upgrade the Oppressor Mark II is by purchasing a terabyte. And the only way to purchase a terabyte is if you own a garment factory or a nightclub. Now, both of these businesses are great, and I would definitely recommend to own them, but if you were starting off as a brand new player and you wanted to get your hands on an Oppressor Mark II, it's going to be around $2 million for the nightclub or garment factory, and an additional $2 million for the terabyte with the upgrade station, and then an additional $8 to $6 million for the Oppressor Mark II. And then the upgrades as well, an additional $300,000 to $400,000. You're literally looking at a purchase price that is close to $11 million, even with the trade price, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. The question is, should you be spending your money as a new player or even decently experienced player on the Oppressor Mark II if you don't have one? Well, the answer is a bit more complicated than a yes or a no, and I think it just depends on how much time you plan on putting into this game and whether or not this is the right vehicle for you. Let's start off with the basics, right? If you're a new player, you should not be planning to purchase an Oppressor Mark II anytime soon. A great example of this is my Broke to Billions account. I have put about 7 days of in-game time into my Broke to Billions account, so that's like, I don't know, 100-ish hours of time into my Broke to Billions account. I've earned over $100 million on it. And with the amount of time I put into that account, I do not own an Oppressor Mark II. I own an F-160 Raiju because I purchased it on sale during Black Friday. I even own a Terabyte because I have the Garment Factory and I use the Terabyte as my terminal command center. I own a Deluxo. I own a Toreador. I own a lot of the weaponized vehicles. But a purchase I have not made yet is the Oppressor Mark II. And the major reason why is because I own a Kosatka, which also coincidentally has the Sparrow located inside of it. If you don't own a Kosatka yet, and you're watching today's video thinking, gee, I really want to get the Oppressor Mark II, well, at the end of the day, there's really not much of a reason to do that when you can simply scroll over the service vehicles, Kosatka, and go right to the Sparrow in your interaction menu and call it out. Yes, I know. There are people that love the Oppressor, and they're going to crawl into the comments and say, yes, the Sparrow does have some capabilities, but the Oppressor is better. And I agree. For most situations, the Oppressor Mark II is better than the Sparrow, mainly because of the fact it's slightly faster on acceleration, it's smaller, and more maneuverable, which means that it's a little bit easier to complete missions and make it from point A to point B, getting in alleyways, not having to worry about crashing into a building, falling off of your Sparrow. These are all things that the Oppressor definitely has an advantage of. But that's not to say the Sparrow doesn't have advantages as well. It has flares, and it has a spammable amount of flares as well, unlike the Oppressor, which has a 13-second cooldown before you can use the flares once again. Not only that, but you double the amount of flares shooting out of your Sparrow. I should also mention the Sparrow has the exact same homing missiles, except an unlimited amount of them, where the Oppressor Mark II only has 30 homing missiles. And the biggest downside of the Oppressor Mark II is the cooldown. You have to wait 5 minutes before you can get your Oppressor Mark II back, or you have to call in your Terabyte and go inside your Terabyte and get it out of the vehicle. Those are the only two ways of getting your Oppressor Mark II. Where the Sparrow, if it gets destroyed, in 2 minutes you can call it back without even having to pay through Moore's Mutual Insurance. And, yeah, that's about it. It's just a 2-minute cooldown to get your Sparrow back. So there are definitely advantages between both vehicles. The Sparrow, I should also mention, flies quite a bit faster than the Oppressor. If you are going long distances from the city to Paleto Bay or Sandy Shores, it's definitely going to be faster for the Sparrow, as this flies in at around 170 miles per hour, where the Oppressor goes 130. So there are definitely some big advantages between both of them, and I think it really depends on what kind of player you are. But the problem is, the Oppressor costs a lot more money, right? Getting your hands on a Kosatka is super inexpensive. You go right over to Warstock, and you can see it right on the top page. It's $2.2 million to get a Kosatka. To get a Sparrow as well, it's going to be an additional $1.7 million, plus the upgrades another it's like $2 million in total for the Sparrow. So you're spending $2.2 million on the Kosatka, plus $2 million on the Sparrow. That means you're spending around $4.4 million. But I should mention that the Kosatka Kotka also gives you the ability to fully do the Cayo Perico heist, which is going to earn you millions upon millions of dollars immediately in return. Where getting your hands on a terabyte and purchasing the oppressor doesn't really give you any, increased money earning potential. So, should you buy an Oppressor Mark II as a new player? No. It is a terrible purchase for a new player. When you have the ability to get your hands on a Sparrow, which, as I mentioned, does 90 to 80% of what an Oppressor can do, there's no reason that you should be singly, purchasing an Oppressor without any businesses in the background. Now, if you're already an experienced player and you own a Sparrow and you own a boatload of businesses. Let's say you already own most of the businesses like the CEO office building and the agency and the garment factory, and you own all the businesses that you want for earning money. Then yes, I do think that at some point purchasing an oppressor is a very, very important buy for multiple reasons. First of all, as I've talked about in one of my previous videos, the Terabyte is now basically the best vehicle in the game. And the reason why that is the case is simply because of the fact the Terabyte allows you to, well, let me request my oppressor as well, but the reason the Terabyte's so good is because it allows you to now use the Terminal Command Center. See, previously the Terabyte only allowed you to access certain businesses like Special Cargo and I think it was maybe your motorcycle club, your bunker, but it was still missing a lot of the businesses, and the actual website itself just wasn't nearly as good. But now, with the oppressor, you can fly into your Terabyte, well, there you go. I was going to say, it's not letting me enter my Terabyte, but you can have your Terabyte with your oppressor right inside of it. And then what's great is pressing X, I can access the Master Control Terminal. And this allows me to see all the businesses in the game. I can use gun running, the nightclub, the math lab, all the businesses, including air freight cargo, special cargo. It is incredibly nice. I should also mention that if you enter onto the main page, which is this one here, you can still access air freight cargo, special cargo. And this is what's great, is that with special cargo, you cannot get the Lupe missions through your Terabyte, which is really nice. So the Terabyte itself is a great hub to restock your businesses and access them. And then when you pair that with the fact that you can instantly start special cargo and air freight cargo sourcing right on the computer, hop into your oppressor and start up the job, yeah, there's definitely some advantages for the oppressor as well. I think if you are a fairly experienced player and you don't own the oppressor, it's a great purchase. But as a new player, I can tell you this will be one of the biggest wastes of money you can spend your money on when you can get something like the Sparrow and, as I mentioned, cover 90% of tasks. It's not like you can use the Oppressor Mark II for any missions. You can't. It's not able to be used in missions. And yeah, sure, maybe if you're planning on going into free roam lobbies, if you're a player that likes to PvP, then yeah, get your hands on an Oppressor Mark II. It's a great vehicle for PvP. But most of us nowadays are focused on grinding. We're focused on playing in invite-only lobbies. And if you're kind of like me and you're focused on grinding, I use the Sparrow, honestly, a lot more than I use the Oppressor. So you can let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. And if you enjoyed today's content, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.